You are in Where's Huddle with me, Bram, and with me, per usual, my master of all things video and sound, Maxime.
And how's it going?
Maxime, it's been a while, man. Happy New Year. Happy holidays. How you been? How's this podcast find you?
Pretty good. Yeah, I potty trained my kid last week, so that was like the
Hey,
hardest I've ever focused on anything in my life. So yeah, it was a good time. It worked out.
you got that done in a single fucking week? There's times I still piss my pants and I'm in my fucking 40s, dude. I'm very impressed that you turned that around in less than 7 days. Is your kid like a genius or something?
Yes, I'm totally unbiased.
I am incredibly impressed. And there's a remarkably embarrassing story about my kid that I'll keep in pocket here. Maybe we'll use it down the line, but I'm not going to embarrass her immediately. Instead,
Sure.
let's talk Warriors basketball, Maxime. We've got a lot to cover. In fact, we've got a segment today I'm excited for. It's called He Said What. We've got some quotes I need to run by you. We've got some games to discuss. So let's start where we always do, the glass half full. You'll remember we're looking back at Warriors basketball. We're giving something you like, something you don't. I'll warn you, I'm kind of in a pissy place. I didn't take that fucking Clipper game very well. So most of my takes are going to be centered on that. But I don't need to go first. What do you got, man? Something you like or something you don't from recent Warriors hoop?
I'm in a pretty dark place too, because I don't want to sound like a broken record, but it's so frustrating to watch Steph Curry still be so capable, and just having it feel like not just Steve Kerr and the Warriors franchise, but the NBA at large kind of just squander him. It's very frustrating to be in this position, but I'll give you something I like, not just to sour everything all the way. It's more of a general thing. One of my best friends came over, and actually her mom is a diehard Warriors fan. She's less so, whatever, but she has this new boyfriend, and I was trying to play it cool. It was during the Clippers game. I wasn't really saying anything, and I was like, it's fine. I'll watch it on tape delay later. And then almost at halftime, my dude looks up. He's like, hey, are you into the Warriors at all? Have you seen the score? I was like, oh, we're gonna be good friends, aren't we? And so then we shoehorned into watching the second half together, and it was a good time until it wasn't. But it's nice to have basketball and the Warriors bring people together. So, in spite of the loss, in spite of the very frustrating second half of that game, I had a really nice time with my new friend Gabe.
You're so much more healthy than I am. I hate new people across the board, even if we have similar interests. He would have asked me about the Warrior score, and I still would have been so deeply in my I don't want to talk to you setting that Gabe and I would not have been able to discuss anything, and I would have left there without any new friends. I agree that we've said it a lot of different ways. The NBA does not protect Steph Curry. And that is in particularly true when you see how he's treated versus other superstars. That's in particularly true when you see how he's treated versus somebody like Kobe Sanders, who I didn't know existed until that fucking game against the Clips. And it's almost like going to a museum and they've got, 10 really crazy valuable paintings. Everybody acknowledges are worth way over, $2 billion. And 9 of them are behind glass and nobody can touch them and there's no problem. And you have a security system to beat the ban. And the 10th, they leave in the lobby and everyone's allowed to finger paint on. That's the fucking Steph Curry that they the way that they officiate him, the way that opposing players are allowed to grab or foul or constantly obscure his path to the basket or even just his path to an open pass is fucking crazy. It doesn't make any sense to me. But let's make it specific. Things I like, things I don't. Things I like, Maxime, something about that Clippers game. I like games where the Warriors force more turnovers than they give up. And that's exactly what happened for the first time forever. Clips had 20 turnovers. Warriors only had 7. So, hey, look, something I like. There you go. Now, back to Pissy Town. Something I don't like. The NBA's completely bullshit rule on when goaltending could be fucking reviewed. I don't understand. Why do you have a review process if there are times when a goaltending cannot be reviewed? So here's the actual rule. This is from official.nba.com. Quote, since the 2012-2013 season, replay can be used when officials are not reasonably certain whether a goaltending or basket interference violation was called correctly during the last 2 minutes of the fourth period or last 2 minutes of any overtime period. There is one call in all of the NBA that literally awards points to a team. Nothing else. There's no other call that can happen where the scoreboard changes depending on the call. You can put someone to the line, right? You can give out technicals. You can take people off the floor. But there's one thing you can do that actually adds points to a scoreboard. It's goaltending. Why the fuck can you only review that in the last 2 minutes? How does that make, if you're going to have replay for anything, maybe you start with the call that adds points to the board. So the fact that this happens against the Warriors, for those who weren't watching, what about 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter? A goaltending is very obviously missed. I think it was GP put a ball off the backboard. John Collins blocked it after it touched the backboard, gets missed, piss off Steve Kerr so much he gets ejected from the game. The Warriors ultimately lose by 1 point. It's a ridiculous rule setting. And I won't say that that's why they lost. You know, the Warriors' inability to score for what felt like 45 minutes during the third quarter is probably why they lost. But it's at least worth saying, man, this is ridiculous. If you're going to have any reviews of goaltending, they should be allowed throughout the game. So something I don't like, how they've handled this.
I could not agree more. You could extend it to, and first of all, let me second 100%. We should have lost that game regardless of the calls, right? It was almost doubly frustrating because then we mount a comeback, we get it to within 1. It's like, oh my God, this is within reach after all of this bullshit. But yeah, we lost that game. The thing that's frustrating, it feels like over and over again, I remember a game where Bob Fitzgerald is like, hey, yeah, like the refs are robbing us of a good product on the floor, right? This is not fun for the fans to have it like this. And I think you compound that with the state of betting in the NBA, and it starts to get harder and harder to believe that there isn't some bias happening, be it for betting or for other purposes. And I'll give you my pet theory right now, because some of this ref officiating is so bad. It's either because of sports betting and like, my God, we're fucked. Or here's what I think is going on, is that the refs know that AI is going to replace them. And so they are trying as hard as they can to make the wrong calls so that the AI is trained poorly so that they can't ever outcompete the actual refs. That's what I think. It's it's 4D chess happening right here. That's the only thing I can do to explain what's happening right now.
Take me through the logistics of AI refs. Is it like a robot that cruises around the court, looks like R2D2 and fires off calls? Is it like some overarching voice that just drops takes from like the sky and tells whether or not there's a foul? Like how would the logistics on AI officiating work?
Well, the ref take game has gone up pretty dramatically this year with the challenge reviews and explaining that to the crowd. But no, I mean, robots are actually really far away from being a reality. But it's just like a light or something. You still probably have a ref on the court that is just like taking in calls, but there's somebody, or rather an AI watching, mapping out all the players. It's gonna be so much more effective. But I don't know that we would ever go for it.
Do you like when the refs go out of their way to make their explanation of the replay entertaining?
Of course, yeah. I'm tuning into all of these games just to watch the refs. I love the refs. I think they're super. No, fuck that, dude. Stay off my screen. Stop ruining the flow of the game. I don't want to see you. I don't want to hear from you. I'm not buying your shoes. What the fuck is going on here?
No, that's exactly what I was thinking. It's a slippery slope. I'm blanking on the ref's name and should have read it. It down. But there's and he is known, and they give him a lot of credit on every broadcast.
He's entertaining.
When he speaks into the mic. So to set it up, when there's a replay review, obviously the refs have to go look at it, and then the lead official has to come stare into a camera and give the decision. Not all refs give it the same way. Some give it robotically. Some put a little oomph into it, as if it's like a play reading. This ref puts some oomph into it, and it does. It makes those 30 seconds that he's doing it more entertaining, which is good for television. But I'm with you, because the other thing it does is teach that ref, make this a little bit more about you, man. Your personality matters a little bit here. What you're doing matters a little bit here. And that's exactly what we do not need them thinking. You know what I mean? It's got to go in an entirely different direction. I'll give you the definition of a glass half full. I wasn't going to say this, but I'll say it now. I don't know how to read this, but I think there's an argument to be made that the Warriors are between 15 and 30 plays away from being the 3rd seed in the West. There's all of these games that have come down to plays like the goaltending, or to a single missed possession, or bad turnovers in the fourth quarter, or a blown lead. And there's an argument for this team is right there. They've just had the ball bounce the wrong direction a few ways. And then there's the eye test that suggests, I don't know, they don't feel like they're that fucking close. And they feel a pretty far, cry away from any kind of title contention. So definition of glass half, I don't know. But am I crazy to say that? Let's make it a question. Do you think that if I say we are 15 to 30 plays away from being a top 4 team in the West, is that a homer take or a real observation?
I would say it's a homer take. I mean, I feel you, and I can make that argument myself, and sometimes I do when I'm lying awake at night trying to justify why I'm going to continue to watch this team for the rest of the season. But in general, I think it's encapsulated, and maybe this is a nice segue into the next thing we're going to talk about, but I think it's encapsulated in the fans that are clamoring for Michael Porter Jr. to come join the Warriors, right? On paper, probably going to be an all-star in the East, absolutely crushing it, is a great basketball player. As a personality and probably locker room fit, I think it's going to be verging on cancerous if he were to join the squad, and that's why I doubt that we're actually going to go pick him up, right? And I think that's it exactly, right? Yes, maybe there's an alternate reality where the 2015-2016 Warriors are in this position and you're like, yeah, there's some 50-50 games that really should have gone our way. It's just been a really rough go of it, and like I feel like it's going to turn around. No, I think there's something fundamental happening here where actually this is an indicator of some larger term issues, be it in the locker room, be it guys being tired. We've been doing this as a squad for a very long time now. I don't blame people for getting tired, for keeping their eye off the ball a little bit. Like, Steph doesn't have that much more to play for, and especially if he doesn't feel like they're on the verge of a 5th ring, he's sort of like, I don't need to push it that hard. You can see Draymond kind of falling off. I think it's more age and wear and tear and, fatigue with one another that's leading to these inconsistencies and turnover stuff rather than sort of, surprising incidents that are unlikely to happen again.
Yeah. I mean, I think the easiest way to summarize it for me is that we are not 15 to 20 plays away from being title contenders. Like maybe they move around in the West, maybe we move up a couple of slots. Maybe they should be higher in the win column, but I don't know if those mistakes put us in the same category as OKC or Houston or some of the other guys
Denver,
who have been doing it throughout. I don't know what the Joker injury does to Denver, but I mean, they at least need to be thrown in here. All right, to our major section. So this is a segment we don't get to do all the time. It is called He Said What? It's when people say things that seem to be totally crazy, catch my attention. I ring out the quote, we see if we agree with it, and then ask some follow-ups. And we got a few doozies today. And here's our first. It comes from former friend of the podcast. We actually had him on when he first came over to the Bay from OKC, Anthony Slater. And what Slater said was that the Warriors might be willing to hold on to JK if the right trade doesn't come around. Here, let me read it to you. This is from NBA Central Twitter account. The Warriors are willing to keep Jonathan Kuminga past the deadline per Anthony Slater. Quote, team sources have said in recent days that they'd be willing to keep Kuminga past the deadline if nothing appealing enough materializes. That could be a strategic posture, and it's certainly a risk considering Kuminga, making $22.5 million this season, is currently buried in Coach Steve Kerr's rotation, having played 10 total minutes in the past month. So the Warriors are saying, hey, don't give us enough. We'll keep him. Fuck you. We like him. What do you think, man? Do you believe this? Is there any chance that the Warriors are willing to hold on to JK if they don't get the offer that they want?
Yeah, right. That's like me going to a used car lot or whatever and being like, I'm not going to buy this. I have this briefcase right here, but you know what? I'm walking. It's like, we've already seen the fucking briefcase. You brought the cash to the lot. You're buying the car. I see you. Okay, like, fine. I'll knock off $5,000, but like, we're obviously leaving with this briefcase in my hands and this car in your hands. And I think it's the same thing here. This is for sure posturing. I think it would be beyond detrimental. I think it would be worse than having Michael Porter Jr. join the team if Kuminga was on the squad post trade deadline.
Hey, change your analogy a little bit. I definitely agree. Let's say you're selling the car. I go to the fucking dealership, I'd like to sell them a car. They're like, you know what? We have $100 for you. I'm like, no, fuck you. I love this car. I need way more. And they're like, well, did you drive it yesterday? No. Did you drive it last week? No. Did you drive it in a month? No. When's the last time you drove it? Well, over the last, 6 weeks, I've driven it for 10 minutes. They'd be like, take your fucking $100 and get the fuck out of here. I do not believe this at all. You do not sit this gentleman the amount that they've sat him because you'd like him to be a part of the rotation going forward. So no, the only leverage these guys have is they got to hope that NBA GMs don't call each other. They get some kind of an offer from Phoenix, and then they get an offer from Sacto. They got to hope that Sacto does not call Phoenix's GM to cover like what exactly was offered, because the Warriors can't say we're not going to trade him as a way to kick the numbers up. I do not think that is going to work. And I don't think anybody is going to believe this posture. Here, let me ask it this way. Would you keep him? Yeah. If Dunleavy gives us a call and he's like, man, we've been trying for months. It's now January 25th. We're 10 days past this fucking deadline. We've gotten offered nothing. Should I just keep him? Should I just keep him and venture into the offseason? What would your advice be? My advice be cut bait. Whatever the offer is, whatever the highest offer is, even if it is a ridiculous reduction on what you thought you were going to go, at this stage, we've already chosen this path. It's already been done, and so holding on to him to head into next offseason, that's not going to make the offers go up at all. We already know he wants out, and so at this stage, I think you just got to field what's out there and then cut bait. I don't think there's another version of this.
Yeah, 100%. I think at this point, we're pretty much in consensus that, with hindsight being 2020, like we probably should have at least not drafted him or at least traded him much earlier on. At every stage of this journey, the writing was on the wall that says like Kuminga is not meant for this Warriors squad. And yet here we are now. So if we're going to at least have our hindsight be 2020, then let's not be talking about this in June.
Do you have an ideal trade? If you could snap your fingers and this trade happens for JK, is there one that you have in mind? One that does not include the name Giannis?
Right. Well, of course, when you're talking about realistic things, yeah, like 1-to-1 for Jokic, right? Like, to make the numbers work, I'll tell you, actually, I've come around on it. This might be pretty polarizing for folks, but I think it's actually a good call. The best, most realistic trade out there is packaging him and Draymond Green for Anthony Davis. And you'd have to probably throw in somebody else, like a Moody, somewhere like 7 to, yeah, right. There you go. Just to make or Buddy Hield, right? You make the math work somehow. But I think the trade package is centered around Kuminga and Draymond. There's been a lot of back and forth, kind of like with us and Kuminga right now, coming out of the Dallas camp of like, oh, Anthony Davis wants to stay here and get a max extension. Oh, turns out Dallas is not interested in offering them that. Actually, he's interested in getting traded, right? So there's definitely smoke there on both sides. Who knows if the two sides can make the math work and that there's not compelling offers, more so from other teams, but that's where I'm at.
I'm at the top of the flow chart, and I would need some information from Steph Curry to know which direction to go. So, I mean, like the first question for me on any trade involving JK is, do you involve first rounders? Like how big of a swing do you want to take here? It's the difference between a name like Bobby Portis and a name like Trey Murphy. Bobby Portis you can probably get just for something straight up, no first rounders included, just kind of a player swap. You want a young player, someone who can, probably make a difference. You're including first rounders now. And the reason I need Steph Curry, I genuinely don't believe that even if we make a home run swing, include a bunch of first rounders, even for someone like Anthony Davis, I don't know if that puts us into title contention. I think it makes us better. I think it makes it a more entertaining to watch, but I don't know if it means a fifth title for Steph. And we know for sure that it would mean mortgaging the future. Like if what they're talking about is give your first rounders for post Steph and Golden State, then we wouldn't be able to get off the mat once he left. So it's that first question. I need Steph to tell me, how important is this to you, man? Because he's earned the right. If Steph comes in and says, I need you to mortgage the fucking future for me to enjoy the end of my career now, you do it, and you do it in a heartbeat. If Steph gives you the opposite, the Kobe Bryant, like, I'm fine. Just make this the Steph show. I don't need to win any titles. I'm happy you're paying me the $50 million. I would like somebody. This JK thing isn't working. Give me someone else to work with, but we don't need to overhaul everything, and you don't need to include the first rounders. I wouldn't, because I don't think it takes us to that next step. So I'm in this kind of impasse, and I'm sure there's discussions behind. Steph probably has more conversations with Mike Dunleavy than he has with me, so my guess is they have this info, but before I can even identify like what kind of trade you need, that's the input I would need. It's like, well, where are you? How do you feel about this? Because you've earned this. So why don't you make the call?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And I mean, that's why I sort of brought up Anthony Davis, is I think it is possible to get it done without the first rounders. I think, he is well below the 65 game threshold already this year, right? Very frustrating for Dallas when they're trying to build around a young Cooper Flag. The best case scenario, it lines up like Anthony Davis. Look, this isn't 2020 anymore, but it's not that far removed from it. You have him healthy at the right time for the postseason. You have Jimmy Butler to help us get there. You just get into the playoffs. I mean, I think he could take us all the way. And I think Dallas could be willing to do it without some first rounders being thrown in there.
If there's a call from Dallas and it's a discussion that doesn't include draft compensation, oh man, you got my attention. Absolutely. My guess is they will want first rounders. I mean, that sure. Seems like at least a starting point, but I don't know. I guess we'll find out. All right, to our next quote. Bill Simmons, Maxime's got some interest in the team. He always has. And he dropped a quote recently about a trade not involving Jonathan Kuminga. Instead, he suggested a trade involving Jimmy Butler. Let's play it.
How do you make the league more fun? You have a team that nobody's excited about with the Lakers and a team that feels dead with the Warriors. LeBron for Jimmy Butler.
Oh, okay.
That's it. It feels like a for the good of the sport trade. Just more fun. The Warriors are not fun. I don't see a scenario where they become fun, but now you put LeBron on the team with Curry, LeBron reinvigorated, and who knows? And then Butler is probably a better fit with Luka and Reeves anyway.
Who's more likely to say no to that? Golden State, right?
I don't know. That's why. Oh, I think Golden State would probably do that.
You think so?
Because LeBron is an expiring contract in the year. Maybe they'd throw him one more.
You can cut it right there. Interesting take. He kind of telegraphed some of my thoughts on it, honestly. But let me ask you, man. Just generally speaking, having LeBron on the team, intriguing? Like, sound like a good idea?
Yeah. I think this is exactly the right time. It's sort of like how, ironically, we're talking about Jimmy, but it's the Jimmy Butler bump post-trade deadline last year that I think would be all the more so, right? You're talking about, Bill Simmons, rather, is talking about reinvigorating LeBron. I think that's exactly what he needs. He's talking about being the oldest dude in the league, and he's not playing back-to-backs anymore. Like, we're reaching the end of LeBron's time, but we also just saw, as I've said before, the Steph-LeBron pairing in the Olympics. Like, I mean, that's way better than Anthony Davis. LeBron takes way better care of his body such that he's much more likely to be on the court. Yeah, I would do it. I mean, I love Jimmy, and I think Jimmy is like having an outstanding season. And it's like people are frustrated by him because like that Clippers shot was crazy, and he's not a high volume scorer or anything. But in general, he's like a rock for this squad. So I would be sad to let him go, but I think overall he's right that both teams would have better fits. And I would love to see LeBron play with Steph at the end of their careers.
You brought up something. I'll make it a compliment. Something I like. Kerr's out of timeout plays. The necessary correlation that out of timeout play for Jimmy Butler was tough, and Stotts didn't necessarily call up exactly what we did. It was what it was. Do I like the idea of LeBron on Golden State? I do. The Olympic thing makes it more palatable and easy. It doesn't have that weird desperation that the CP3 edition felt, when he first came on. Like, this does kind of feel like the right time. They have already played together, and it's intriguing. Does LeBron over Jimmy make us a better team? So I will say let's capitalize on what Bill pointed out. Maybe not immediately on the floor. Going forward, I think yes. I think we know that this pairing, certainly next year with Jimmy and Steph is going to be a step back from what it is now. That's how Father Time works. It's not necessarily working right now. So if LeBron's contract ends this year and we're no longer in an obligation, I think that trade is already a plus. We're in a place where we can kind of reset going into next year. And I think you can take it a little bit further. I won't even say that. I think in some ways for the team this year, you can make an argument either way. I think LeBron would be better in the Warriors read and react system. I think he's a better passer, and I think would be a better partner with Steph. But I think the other side of that coin is that Jimmy does all the things this read and react system does not have. He can isolate in a way. He can get to the line in a way that LeBron does not. He's less turnover prone than LeBron is. So it's a glass half full kind of analysis. I think you can make an argument either way for whether or not LeBron would make us better, which is why I think Bill said it's for fun. You know what I mean? Like that, like this would be for the upside of the league, as opposed to this is what puts the Warriors in a different title contention category.
Yeah, 100%. It's the Zach Lowe quote of like, just like have it be an honorable finish to Steph Curry's career. And this is just like, it's honorable from the standpoint of like Steph deserves to have the spotlight on him, and that would shed it on both of them. And I think that they would play it would not be like KD getting pissed that he's not getting all of the limelight. I think they would know how to share the limelight perfectly. So it'd be fun. It would.
I mean, I have no reason to think this. This is a total guess, complete speculation. But most of the bridges that Jimmy uses to get to a team, he burns before he leaves. We've joked about some of the press conferences he gives when things aren't going super well. I don't know how far we are away from maybe that portion of his career here in Golden State. So if we can avoid that with a little bit of a trade here, there's some fucking upside there. All right, put a bow on it. Mike D calls you. The offer's on the table. He needs your advice. Would you take LeBron for Jimmy Butler if the offer was made?
Yeah, I would.
I'd have a sleepless night. I'd be all weird about it, but I think I'd still say yes. I mean, the question I still can't answer. When anytime I start talking to people about my new expectations for this team, my New Year's resolution of like, look, they're a 500 team, accept them as like that. What people hit me with, well, how do you explain the end of last year? Like, why'd they get so fucking hot? Why were they, a top 3 team speeding into the playoffs? I don't have a satisfactory answer for that. There's a small portion of my mind that wants to believe, shit, I said it earlier, we're 15 to 20 plays away from being a top 3 fucking seed. And like, why isn't this happening? So it wouldn't be super easy for me to just totally give up on this pairing. I still see, the statue in the stone of Jimmy being here. But it's getting real close to this is not working. Let's just make it more entertaining, because you can argue a lot of ways about, does it make us better? I don't think there's any argument about whether or not it makes us more entertaining. A team featuring Steph and LeBron towards the end of both of their careers, that's immediate must-watch TV on a consistent basis. It'd be everybody's league watch team. So, we at least would have that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is that Jimmy injected some life into the squad, and it's like LeBron would do the same thing tenfold. So
last, he said what? So rising star in Charlotte, Maxime, Brandon Miller had some injury concerns, but he's coming on now. Apparently an athletic marvel, and showed that not only just shitting all over Kyle Kuzma, had not a fast break dunk, but kind of a one-on-one dunked on his face interaction with Kyle Kuzma. But after the dunk, Brandon Miller makes eye contact with Kyle and delivers a dumbass bitch, calls him a dumbass bitch after dunking in his face. Here is the replay for those who haven't seen it. Let's go ahead and watch it for a sec.
Takes off and says, "Get out of my way. Kuzma, you're in my poster."
There's the dunk. Looked at him, and as Brandon Miller is running back to get back on defense, says in what seems to be fairly slowly, dumb ass bitch. So there it is. Here's my question to you. What the hell is Kyle Kuzma supposed to do when that happens? Like in any other shit talking scenario, like maybe you'd have the ball next, like something could happen. If he called you weak, you could score, you would no longer be weak. There'd be some retort, something you could do. If I've been shit on national television, the guy calls me a dumbass bitch, I don't know if there's anything that can be said. I feel like he's now trapped in this scenario. But I don't know. You come up with creative takes all the time. That's why I'm bringing this to you. If you get dunked on national television and somebody calls you a dumbass bitch, is there anything you could say, or do you just have to wear it and hope that people forget?
First of all, Kuzma already has a history of being known as maybe not the brightest bulb in this 480 box light bulb baggage that is the NBA Players Association. So tough. You're definitely starting with a bit of a handicap. What I would not do is go try to prove my intelligence. I think that would be a bad call, right? But you can't then play into it either. So ultimately, I think what I've decided, because I watched this like 20 times, it is so intense, especially because the camera angle just perfectly, like it's just the clearest I've ever seen a lip reading of like, yeah, he called him a dumbass bitch.
Oh yeah.
And after like throwing him to the ground.
Yes.
Like,
and deep eye contact. I mean, he was fucking, they were like locked in.
Holy shit. I mean, it's like the Mona Lisa. Like he's making eye contact with me. I'm like, are you telling me I'm a dumbass bitch? Like, I'm almost like I'm quitting my own job and I'm not even in the NBA. I think I would just quit. I think I would quit the NBA. I think that's kind of what needs to happen for Kuzma here.
I can see panicking. Just throw out a bunch of sentence fragments. No, I'm not. You're the dumb bitch. Like something like that.
I know you are, but what am I?
Yeah, the camera catches me, and it took a situation where I already look like an asshole. Now I look much worse. There's just no upside to it at all. Have you ever had a scenario either literally on the floor where you got dunked on or verbally where you got dunked on and you weren't sure how to handle it?
Absolutely. Yes.
Tell me about either or both.
I mean, it's only proverbially, but I was at the Stanford Jazz Workshop. I was in a big auditorium. There's this guy, I guess I won't name his name. I was able to talk to him about this years later because I met him at a party, but a teacher when I was a student, an older guy, but is known for being a real sort of great mind of the jazz sort of like education theory world. And he was explaining something and I raised my hand and I was like, well, couldn't you do it like this? And his response, he just looks at me and he goes, shut up. In a room, and it's just like there's hundreds of people in this room, and I just kind of collapsed into my seat and just wished that I didn't exist, and thought about how I was going to quit my job in 20 years. Yeah, it was tough. And when I approached him later and asked him about it, he was like, "Oh, that does kind of sound like me." Didn't even apologize.
I wish that when you'd approach him later, he had made deep, continued eye contact and said, "Dumbass bitch," and then just walked away, called it a win. I've been dunked on both on the floor and off of it. And I'll give you a random one that honestly I'm still wearing, even though it had nothing to do with me. 8th grade, I'm playing for Montera Junior High. We go to Claremont, and a teammate, a guy named Michael Rains, go ahead and beat that name for the podcast, gets dunked on pretty viciously, which was a giant deal in 8th grade. Not a lot of people dunking. Sure. Yeah. And so if a dunk of any type happens, it's already going to get like an and one reaction where people are running from the stands onto the floor. And if a dunk on somebody happens, you can guarantee that. That's exactly what happens. People surround Mike Rains. There's a big reaction. Then play resumes. And people started screaming, "White boy got dunked on." Fun fact, Michael Rains is not white, and I suddenly got blamed for that shit.
Oh,
yeah,
no.
It's been so many decades. It wasn't me. And to make things even worse, my father, who was attending that game, still says I got dunked on.
No.
What the fuck? Like you weren't. So there's one.
Wow.
I have not been able to live it down. It really bothers me. It is what it is. Mike, if you're listening, you motherfucker, you should have told that crowd that was you. And I'm not sure why it fell on me. And then off the floor, have I been dunked on verbally? Oh my God, so many times. I don't even categorize them anymore. Like if I did and I kept a journal, that's all it would be, is just people pointing out things I've said poorly. But I'll highlight one that you're certainly aware of. And I think we talked about on this podcast, but rewind a few years, you and I go to a game. The Warriors are still deep in their dynastic turn. So things are going great. I think it was a preseason game. We're playing the Lakers. There's a guy in front of us who's wearing a Lakers jersey who's lightheartedly talking shit about that Lakers preseason team beating the Warriors. And we didn't have any of our players going. It was nothing. And I go out of my way to take a pot shot on a guy who's in a conversation I'm not a part of. So if you do that, you better be right. If you're admitting to eavesdropping and you're going to, and I'd go out and say something along the lines of, we don't want to hear shit from someone whose team has been terrible for a decade. Well, fumbled that because it had only been 9 years, and we heard for the next 3 quarters, this guy giving me shit that I didn't know the definition of decade. Still bothers me, Maxime. I'm sitting here right now. I've tried to look up different definitions. I've tried to push back, but he essentially called me a dumbass bitch, and it was what it was. I had to wear it. And so between he and Mike Rains, man, I'm upset too. This is a difficult setting.
But don't you hate the guys that try to chalk everything up to semantics? Like, you didn't actually win that. Like, sorry, it was 9 years and not 10. Your team still sucked for basically a decade. Also though, Brandon, you don't need a journal. Like, I feel like you remember all of these. Like, I've forgotten and remembered that more times than you've even brought it up. But I feel like you must wear all of these, and I still think about that guy telling me to shut up, and it brings me shame. That sounds like an exhausting life, man. I'm really sorry.
I think we both know I do have a list of them. I just every day I open up my dunked on notebook, put a little bullet point. January 6th, 2026. Maxine called me out on actually remembering all the times I admit shit on. And then ... he was right. And then just wait till the next day. It's true. I feel like you've read that notebook and that affects me. give us a prediction as on our way out here. The Warriors are playing the Bucks, who I think I mentioned this before, but Bobby Portis Jr. is a guy whose name I threw out before the season on a possible Kuminga trade, and he remains one now. Toughness, 3-point shooting, I mean, that kind of stuff. But what's the prediction? Do you think the Warriors come out with a victory tonight, or do we slip all the way back to 500?
Yeah, no, Warriors by 6. I think this is the time we need the win, so let's get it. How about you?
I think they win too, not because I am confident at all, because every time I decide one thing about the team, they push it other ways. So they lose that Clipper game, and I'm trying to underline that New Year's resolution of just accept this team for who they are. And so I'm kind of close to that now. Fine, I'll just enjoy watching Steph while I can, and I'm not expecting anything big. Whenever that happens, they come out with an unexpected win to whenever I'm out, they pull me back in. So this feels like a pull me back in win. So I will also say they will win this one and then lose a couple afterwards to dog shit teams that will then break my heart. But we'll cover those future games when we get to them.
Can't wait. Nothing like a loss to the Utah Jazz to really end the week nicely.
Old Lauri Markkanen and hopefully the future home of Pajemski. All right. That in mind, if you want to support us, we still have our Patreon crew out there. We'd love you to join. We're also on social media in a number of locations. The spot we need your help with the most is YouTube. The work we're doing on there is incredible, and the more subscribers we get, the more it helps us. So hop on there, please. And also, I haven't said this for a while, but if you'd like to get us an email, ask a question, let us know we did a good job, bad job, any job, you can send it to
Huddle@warriorshuddle.com.
That in mind. Go Warriors. Hopefully, see you real soon.